Cleveland joins us now. He's from Terrell County in Texas. Sheriff, are your hands tied when you have to deal with migrants? Are you able to question them? What restrictions are there on you?
Howdy, Stuart. Thank you for having me back this morning. My answer may surprise you. Here in Terrell County, my hands aren't tied. And the reason they're not tied is because we have a governor in the state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, who supports us in enforcing the rule of law along the border. And not only that, we have a district attorney out here in this portion of Texas, Suzanne West, and she also supports my office and the rest of the county's offices around this portion of the border to make sure that we're out there arresting illegal aliens. And when we prosecute them, she takes those before the grand jury, she gets those indicted. Our hands simply aren't tied. But with that being said, we've seen what Texas has passed in this past legislation to continue to secure the border. Texas is the only state, frankly, that's doing anything about the border.
And it's working, though, isn't it? Because you've not exactly...
It certainly has.
You've not sealed the border, but you've closed it enough to make the migrants go into California instead.
Yes, sir. And I often say what it takes a strong leader, and that leader should be the President of the United States, letting the rest of the world know that we're going to secure our border, we're not going to let you cross our borders illegally. That's what Governor Abbott has done. He has let those come into Texas. He's let them know that you're not going to cross here illegally, or if you do so, you're going to be prosecuted. That should be a stance the President of the United States takes, but unfortunately, in this administration, we've seen nothing but a complete dismantling of our border.
Have you caught some of these gotaways in your county and sent them back?
So, of course, gotaways are those that we don't catch. And here, I was patrol agent in charge of this border patrol station for the last 11 years of my career. And typically, and continuing on, gotaways is about 50% of the equation here. We catch about 50% of the people that cross and 50% get away. And that's not because of work by border patrol agents. We simply don't have the resources in this part of Texas. This is the Big Bend sector, the Sanderson Border Patrol Station. The Big Bend sector is a quarter of the U.S.-Mexico border. It's 517 miles. My county and the Border Patrol Station here, I should really speak to, they cover 91 miles of border with about 50 agents. We simply don't have enough people to get out there and catch everything that's crossing our portion of the border.
Then we have ICE shutting down a big migrant detention center in South Texas. They say they want to cut costs, so they close it down. But where will all the migrants go now?
Hey, and that's a good point. And to be honest, it's not ICE that's shutting it down. It's this administration forcing ICE to shut it down. This administration makes those calls. And with that being said, I've seen some reports that they want to funnel some of that money to some other facilities, but honestly, I don't see that happening. I looked at some statistics this morning, that there's about 3,500 bed spaces available. Looked at last executive order, they said they would shut the border down if it gets above 2,500. We haven't seen that yet. Apprehensions continue to be much more than that 2,500% or 2,500 apprehensions a day. We did see a few days where it dropped down, but again, when we talk about border security, we shouldn't be using numbers as a measure stick. Border security and immigration are two separate issues. This administration is clearly more engaging in letting people in this country illegally.
Sheriff Cleveland.
Hey there, Patriots. This is True Outlaw Patriot coming at you with another one. What you just seen was a news clip that came out 12 days ago, once again through Fox Business, because, of course, the mainstream media won't talk about it. This is the situation that's happening in Texas right now. That ICE is being forced by the administration to shut down one of the largest migrant facilities in Texas, where they, I guess, when they bring people in, they check them out, they vet them, they do whatever it is they need to do, they send them back. And this is indicative of what the left has been doing, especially in the past few years, especially AOC being like one of the biggest ones, talking about shutting down ICE, okay, and not letting ICE do their job. As a matter of fact, the whole squad, as they like to be called, they're all against ICE doing their job and sending people back. And this is why so many criminals are getting through. As a matter of fact, it's been on the news, and it slipped my mind, but I came across it again today. In Buffalo, a 15-year-old girl was raped, okay, and supposedly the the police department kept it hush hush, okay, because the person that did it was a Turkish immigrant that crossed the border illegally. Okay, so that there's a lot of investigation going on in that, why they kept his identity quiet. The police department is fighting against that, saying that it wasn't what people are thinking, but excuse me, people are advocating that information should have been put out because there could have been more victims. Okay, and the reason being is because supposedly the guy that raped the girl, he raped her in a car. I'm only guessing that maybe he worked in some field where he was picking up passengers and stuff like that. Okay, so that investigation is going on, and this is one of the reasons why people are so upset with the Biden administration letting people in and tying the hands of border agents, of ICE officials, and just basically letting whoever through the border, and once again innocent people are getting hurt. They're getting hurt, they're getting raped, and they're getting killed. That's the bottom line. Okay, and it seems that more and more young girls are being attacked, okay, by illegal migrants that are coming into the country with a criminal record. Okay, so now the Biden administration is shutting down, is forcing ICE to shut down that migrant center in Texas, which is going to put more of a strain, because more of those people, it's anybody's guess where they're going to be sent. But at the same time, when you have a person like Governor Abbott and other governors in red states that are fighting back, they're trying to send a lot of these illegals back, especially the ones that have criminal records. But the leftists, they don't want to hear that. Okay, and no matter what their constituents say, be it in a blue state, blue city, they don't care. They're sticking to their guns and letting as many illegals stay as possible. And if you look at my title in the thumbnail, I'm specifically going to point to what's going on in Chicago, and something very very eye-opening that happened in Florida, which I'll play that clip last. It's not a long clip. But before I continue, I just want to thank all my new subscribers and all my subscribers here on YouTube and on Rumble. So don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around, give it a thumbs up, and if you can help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store, TrueOutlawPatriot.com. So with that being said, what you heard here was obviously law enforcement in Texas talking about what's going on. Okay, and it's funny the way the White House and the news media, they keep pandering to everybody, talking about that what Biden is doing is a good thing, and only now you're hearing in a lot of these blue states and cities that they're trying to get a jump on the illegal migration problem, but it's more smoke being blown up everybody's backside. Okay, because what they're really doing, they're basically trying to make it seem like all of a sudden they care, because now, of course, the election is coming fast. Biden's in the tank. Okay, I mean, there's rumors going around that Michelle Obama or that Kamala Harris will be taking over. Like, we need more salt in this wound. But in reality, on the outside, the Biden administration is saying one thing, but on the inside, it's something totally different of what the governors and mayors are doing. So they're just playing with everybody's head. That's all they're doing. They are not jumping on this illegal immigration problem at all. What they're basically doing, they're playing. It's just a game. It's basically like a hide and seek game that they're playing. Okay. One of them is saying one thing to make people believe that everybody's gone, but the other side is just basically hiding and shifting and moving illegal migrants around, hoping that nobody will notice, but people are noticing, especially people in Chicago. Okay, now mind you, this video came out 12 days ago. Okay, I'm going to show you another video that came out 8 hours ago, I believe it was. Okay, and you're going to see how the left is doing things, and also at the same time trying to make people believe that what they're doing is what the people want, and that's not the case. But pay attention. Here we go. Now this news clip came out earlier today, 8 hours ago, and once again, only Fox is putting it out, and you're gonna be surprised of what this person has to say. This is a resident of Chicago, and like I said, you know, Biden and the administration is saying, "Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're getting rid of people, and you know, we're catching up with the gotaways and whatever the case is." But look at the way the mayors and the governors in these sanctuary cities are handling the situation, and how they're pushing American citizens and their constituents to the side, because they are in no way, shape, or form going to start deporting anybody that's in their cities already. Pay attention to this.
Sanctuary cities across the country are reportedly rolling back migrant shelter programs after spending millions on illegal immigrants. One of those cities, Chicago, where migrants under city care has dropped 61%, and there are 11 fewer shelter locations. So, is the city finally realizing how unsustainable this all is? Chicago resident and Trump surrogate P. Ray Easley has been on this from the start, and she joins us now. P. Ray, you know, if they're not in the shelters, where are they going?
They're going to homes where Americans used to live. The housing subsidy that the illegals have is higher than market rent and higher than federal housing subsidies. And so what the landlords are doing is they're not renewing the leases of Americans, and they're putting the illegals there. So
okay, I'm going to pause it there for a second. Now, if anybody's, I hope everybody just heard what's going on. Okay, it's a damn shell game, whatever the hell you want to call it. If you remember months ago, and I've been saying it for a while, a lot of people have been saying it, of how in Chicago they're giving illegals up to like $9,000, I think it's either per person or per family, okay, in order to survive. That's a lot of damn money, okay? The average American citizen that's working 40 hours a week does not make that much money a month, okay? That's why everybody is struggling. But they're going to go and give the illegals these high subsidies. So what the landlords are going to do, and shame on any freaking landlord that is going along with this, because that right there in itself tells me that, you know what, you are a traitor to your country and the people. And it's always all because of greed. Money, 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 and greed. And it gets better. Once I play this clip, it's going to get better, because you're going to see how much more money is going to be spent. But so what they're basically going to do is the landlords won't renew leases, because they know that the people that have been living there, let's say, I don't know, 10 years, whatever, they're not going to be able to pay the rent increase that they want, which, by the way, can be controlled, okay, by the governor, the mayor. They can all get together and say, no, this is what we're going to do, so like that we can start sending illegals back. But no, it's all a money laundering game. They're going to give illegals more money. They're going to let these crooked landlords raise the rent. The people, Americans that can't afford it, will be forced to get kicked out or find somewhere else to live. And then they move in the illegals. They'll take that taxpayer money that's being subsidized by the government. The landlords make money. The illegals have somewhere to live. More Americans suffer, and they're out in the street. That's basically what the hell is going on and is going to happen. Okay? And it once again, it baffles my mind the way the Democratic Party could keep looking at everybody and saying that they got a handle on this, they care about their voters, they care about Americans, they care about America, but look at what the hell they're doing. They're willing to spend millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars more to keep them here. Okay? More taxpayer money to keep them here while kicking their constituents, Americans, to the curb. But let's continue.
Our people are going into the shelters and they're going into the homes.
I want people to take in these numbers.
I'm gonna replay that. Listen to what she says.
Going into the homes.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back just a little bit.
They're not renewing the leases of Americans, and they're putting the illegals there. So our people are going into the shelters and they're going into the homes.
You believe that? So American citizens will be forced, and it's going to happen. You know this is going to happen. Okay? Where Americans will not be able to afford the rents, they'll be going into shelters, more taxpayer money. Okay? And these will be people with jobs. These will be people that have been trying to hold on to their apartments, to whatever little bit of livelihood they got. They'll be forced into shelters, while illegals that haven't put a damn dime into the coffers will just be getting free money from the government to achieve their American dream. Okay? And this is what kills me, because it's going, and this is nothing, I'm going to predict it because it's going to happen. A lot of these people that will be kicked out, and Chicago already said they're going to flip red anyway. So a lot of the people that had voted for Biden, they're done. But those are the ones that are going to suffer also. Democratic voters are going to suffer, Republican voters are going to suffer, independent, liberal, it doesn't matter, they're going to suffer. So that goes to show you right then and there that the Democrat Party does not give a flying rat's ass about Americans, period. But let's continue.
I want people to take in these numbers for a second. So 42,000 plus migrants have come to, or illegal aliens have come to Chicago since August 2022. Over $400 million spent. I mean, period, that's money going to people who shouldn't be in this country, not the citizens of Chicago.
Correct. It's absolutely disrespectful. We don't understand how people could have this type of privilege when they've paid absolutely nothing into the tax base of the city of Chicago. And now the mayor has stated that he's going to let the women and children remain in the shelters, and so that means that the men are going to be put out. So if they are unable to acquire permanent housing, now we have over 1,000 or over 1,000 men on the street, no jobs, no resources, which means that now we are the sitting targets because they're going to eat any way that they can.
You know, P-Ray, you're also a Trump surrogate.
Which means what? More crime. So you divide the families, and in turn, by dividing the families, you're basically committing another crime wave. You know, there are so many jokes that go on about when Al Capone and the mafia and all that, way back when organized crime was running Chicago rampant and New York rampant and Philadelphia rampant, California, all these places, right? What's the difference now? And I'm asking a serious question. Who now is the damn mob? Okay? Because instead of just saving, and not for nothing, but since 2022 to spend $400 million, okay, on people that came here illegally, to come out even before that happened, to come out and leave so many places in Chicago just destitute, saying that we don't have the money to build up this neighborhood or to hire more police or to put more security systems in order to curtail crime and all that. But then all of a sudden you come up with all this money and the government is willing to give it to you, but you're still going to cause more crime in the end. Because you're gonna separate families, whether they're illegal families or not. You're gonna house women and children, leave the men out in the street. What the hell do you think is gonna happen? And let me tell you something. If nobody can look at this, you know, forget about the damn conspiracy theories. Forget about everything that people want to say that, oh, that's not true. It's not about being true. Just look at the situation. You know that it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Some of those men, if not many of them, are going to get so frustrated, okay? Number one, because they can't be around their women and their children. Number two, they're not going to find a place to live because for whatever reason that if they're being displaced or whatever, it leads to crime. That's it. That is the bottom line. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is the damn truth. You push a man to his limit, he's going to break. Maybe not all, but some will. And it's not worth even doing that to one, never mind to 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, because God only knows how many people they're going to do this to. So instead of Brandon Johnson, he talks so much shit, just like Eric Adams, just like Kathy Hochul, just like the governor of Chicago, the governor of Colorado, Gavin Newsom. All these people talk so much about that they're doing all this. They got billions of dollars in surplus. They're doing all this for their cities. But the story remains the same. They're catering more to the illegals, and they're spitting in the face of the Americans. Bottom line. Let's continue.
How do you think these policies will impact the election?
I think that the Democratic Party and Joe Biden's open border absolutely is the best recruitment strategy for the Republican Party. Our people are leaving the Democratic Party in droves because we can now see that the American people are not the priority of the Democratic Party. They're focused on the illegals, they're focused on their health, safety, and security, while ours is negatively impacted.
Yep.
And just the unfairness of it, as you pointed out. P. Ray, thank you so much for joining us. I also want to point out that Fox and Friends reached out to the Chicago mayor's office. We have not heard back, but just wanted to let you guys know that.
And of course not, and they're not going to hear back. Because Brandon Johnson does not know how to answer these questions because he is beholden to his overlord. He doesn't care nothing about the people in Chicago. Why this man has not been impeached, kicked out, and investigated is beyond me. Okay? Now, if you think this is bad, okay, now we have the leader in Panama making deals with Biden. And you're going to love this deal. And this came out a few hours ago. Okay, but the mainstream media won't talk about it. But look at how bad it has gotten. Let's continue. Now, News Nation put this out about 3 or 4 hours ago. Okay, and when I tell you that this whole immigration thing has been, number one, to change the demographics of America. Number two, it's been one of the biggest money laundering schemes in modern history. Okay? Because for the life of me, you know, when Trump was president and he held everybody's feet to the fire, the United Nations, different countries, people thought that he was a dictator when he was asked by certain countries, were you supporters during a war? And he says, do you owe us money? Yes. Unless you pay up, no, we're not going to support you. They said that he was callous and that he was racist and that, you know, he was a dictator. How can he do that to our allies? And there was a reason for it. And the reason being, number one, was so that us, the American taxpayer, would not have to suffer financially. Our economy would not have to suffer. Okay? Money was going to, in other words, the checks and balances were going to be put in place so money would not be lost. Lest anybody forget, okay, the trillion, what was it, $13 trillion or $3 trillion that mysteriously disappeared during the Bush administration? Anybody remember that? Okay. And who was it? Donald Rumsfeld, I believe it was. One was asked, he didn't know. It's like, how the hell do you not know where trillions of dollars went? We're not talking about thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions or tens of millions or billions. We're talking trillions. And to this day, crickets. But now here's this whole illegal immigration debacle, basically, has been one big money laundering scheme. Now pay attention to this report. Here we go.
Well, speaking of the Biden administration, now a new plan to solve the immigration crisis, and it involves Panama. The U.S. will be sending Panama money to help it fund flights to deport illegal immigrants. It's a new step in curbing migration to the U.S. southern border. This is all coming at the Central American nation's new president, Jose Raul Molino. He's vowing to put an end to the Darien Gap used by migrants traveling north, or rather put an end to travel through the Darien Gap.
Okay, now here's the thing. It's his country. Okay? You know, when Trump went to Mexico, people called him a racist against Hispanic people. When he went to Mexico and said, you're going to do this, this, and this, and we're not going to spend a dime, people went apeshit. Okay? But of course, when Obama was president, you had to go and give Iran billions of dollars that they sent on pallets. That's a fact. Biden's the president, did the same thing, sending money to blue states and blue cities. That money's being laundered in every which way you can, from food to shelter to clothing to debit cards, you name it. Free scooters in New York. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But now, knowing that a lot of these people are getting through the Darien Gap, which is in Panama, okay, you're going to help them? You're going to give them money when all they need to do is close their borders with their money? So you're going to send a country money that is countries away, that they have their own economy, their own military force, their own government, so they can stop letting people through to come into America. So you have people flying in from all around the world into South American countries, making the journey through the Darien Gap, and you mean to tell me that Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, all these places, Ecuador, that they can all get together and use their money and say, no, we got to stop this? No. This is a giant money laundering scheme. So, more taxpayer money, okay, to send to the newly elected president, who by listening to this, I just found out we don't know where he really stands on any of this. And to do what? To just turn around and say, okay, you're going to get on a plane, we're going to fly you back. How much are these flights going to cost? In fact, if they got there on their own accord, you make them go back on their own accord. Why does America have to pay to help this country send all these migrants back? It's only one reason. Well, two reasons. One, the election's coming, so they want to look good, Biden and company. And two, more money. Money laundering. That's all it basically boils down to. Because nobody's really going to know the numbers. Nobody's going to bring the receipts and say, okay, this is how much this flight cost. Because if a lot of these people came from these poor countries, and let's just say some of them did fly in, okay, because a lot of them, like from around the world that are not connected to these South American countries, have admitted to flying in and then working their way through, trekking it through. How much was a flight getting there? It couldn't have been much if they're poor. But how much does anybody want to bet that sending them back, if they even say they are, or they're going to do it, it's going to be 10 times more. All on American taxpayer dollars. But let's continue.
Now, if you're not familiar with the geography, but you've all seen a map of Panama, it's barely 60 miles wide, this gap. It contains the main routes used by those migrating from South America to North America, which has fueled a border crisis in this part of the country, and obviously the United States has seen the results of that. The Biden administration hopes the new agreement will deter migration from many countries. Critics saying this is a move that should have happened a long time ago. Joining me right now is Terrell County, Texas Sheriff.
Well, first of all, regardless of what critics are saying that this should have happened a long time ago, I'm going to disagree with that if it's even true, for the simple fact that, you know what? It's not about saying that this is something that should have happened a long time ago. This is something where Biden should have put his foot down and said, don't even bother trying to get to these countries to come here, because you're not going to be welcomed in America. Okay? It's not about, well, you know what? He should have just paid. He should have done this a long time ago with money. No, not one penny should have been freaking spent to do this. Be it 3 years ago, be it a week ago. No, it's just that, you know what? You got to go to these leaders in these countries and say, if you do not stop people from crossing your borders into our border, we're going to have fucking problems. And that's it. Okay? Because I for the life of me, I can't understand how, and I'm not against the people that are saying, you know what, this is something that should have happened a long time ago. I'm not against them, like I hate them or anything, but it's just like, don't even let those words come out your mouth. It's not about that this should have happened a long time ago. It should be about, you know what, this should have never even come up. Money should not even come up as a factor. No money should be given to these countries, to these leaders. It's bad enough a lot of these countries have problems with their own governments, with their corruption, with their economic corruption. Now you're going to send them more money, and where's that money going to go? Okay? For every dollar that's going to be spent on their military or whoever they're going to use to stop people from crossing their border, $100 is going to go into their pocket. That's just the bottom line. It doesn't take a freaking rocket scientist to figure this out. But let's continue.
Is Cleveland. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for being here. I know we've spoken many times, but I want to talk about these numbers. Obviously, this is something that will change the game. I mean, it sounds like it will change the game, as we've seen skyrocketing statistics through the Darien Gap. Should we say that this is actually a positive, that this is a wonderful piece of news and a development that many Americans have been hoping for?
Howdy, Adrian, and thanks for having me back. And, you know, I do think it is a good thing. And I kind of have a two-part answer. And the first part of it is, you know, sure, that's part of our strategy as U.S. Border Patrol, whenever the 26 years I was with the Border Patrol, is to expand our borders. So as you pointed out, Darien Gap's only 60 miles wide, where you have the 2,000-mile U.S.-Mexico border. So if we can stop some of that traffic before it even gets up to Mexico, it will make a huge impact. But I also have to point out, Panama is one of our we're their number one trading partner. And for us to be sending them more money, I'm sure there could have been something else worked out there. But it is good to know that they have a newly elected president that's willing to work with us. And the other part is, I just think this administration's trying to do whatever it can do to grab voters back to think that they're actually doing something along the border.
Well, I mean, it's been a long time coming. We've seen millions and millions of people cross illegally. I want to break down who's exactly crossing right now. Obviously, we've seen people from Ecuador. And then you go to places like Haiti on the map, China. Those numbers have skyrocketed. The vast majority of people coming through Panama are still from Venezuela. So do we know, from your intel that you're getting, do we know if the Venezuelan government is actually working with the U.S. government, or is it still just deadlocked?
It's still deadlocked. Nothing going on there. But what I will tell you is all those countries that you mentioned, and we all know they all exploit the U.S.-Mexico border to illegally enter the United States or have a false asylum claim. And this administration, and I hate to point out this administration because, again, I worked under the previous 4 presidential administrations as U.S. Border Patrol agent, and they all increased border security. They all hired Border Patrol. They all built fence. But this current administration has completely dismantled all of the previous 4 administrations' efforts along the border. Right now, we'll let anybody in the world come into our country through the Mexican border, except those people from Mexico. We still send them back.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there. Okay, so just for lack of time, it's what he's saying about the new administration is coming into Panama. Okay, he sounds like he's enthusiastic about it. Me personally, no. Definitely not. If you are one of our trading partners, if you're an ally, whatever the case is, we should not have to give you money. if the chaos is coming through your country. You want to show face, you want to stay in our good graces, you take care of it. You're the ones letting them in. Okay? You're the ones letting them through. That's just the bottom line. So we shouldn't have to pay for anything. But of course, like I'm saying, it's just a big money laundering scheme. Okay? And it's something that just, it could be curtailed, it could be taken care of if you truly want to make a difference. But obviously, the left, the powers that be, not only here in the United States but around the world, that want demographic changes in the Western world, they're all guilty. This is what they want. They want everybody's money, and they just want chaos, and they just want destruction. They want everybody to be at each other's throats, and they don't give a damn because they're going to sit in their ivory towers, they're going to eat their lobster, and they're going to watch everybody eat bug-infested food that Bill Gates is going to try to feed everybody. Okay? It's just damn ridiculous. So this whole thing about giving Panama money, no, we shouldn't have to give them a damn dime. We should tell them just straight out, you want to keep trading with us? You stop it, or we're going to have to just, put tariffs or raise taxes or whatever the hell the case is. And this is what Trump always talked about. How countries, depending on the administration that's running our country, how other countries get over. And it's not about how they get over. It's the crooked deals that they're able to make depending on the administration that's in power. And it always seems that if it's not a Democrat, it's a rhino Republican, Americans get the shit under the stick. While everybody else prospers, we get the shit under the stick. Okay? But with that being said on this, I'm going to show you how easily things could be done. And I was very surprised when I seen this. It's a short video. It's Ron DeSantis in Florida. And this is how you govern a state. And a lot of people don't like DeSantis. Me personally, I don't think he should run for president. I think he needs to stay in Florida as long as he can. I know that, at some point you got to stop being governor. You got to give up the seat. I think that he needs to get a protege that's going to be just as like-minded in order to keep it going, in order to keep Florida red and keep the good things coming. But this is one thing that he's doing, and you will be surprised, okay, how he does things. Meanwhile, all these other governors and mayors make it seem like it's impossible, but it's actually not. Okay? Let's watch this next video. Here we go. Just for time's sake, I'm going to play some of this video. If you want to watch the whole thing, go to Mornings with Maria. It's about a 7-minute video, but I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play what we need to hear of what Ron DeSantis is doing on how he's cracking down on illegal migrant expenses in Florida, which is helping the American taxpayer. Pay attention.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' plan to crack down on illegal immigrant expenses is off to a strong start. Politico is reporting the state's law, which directs hospitals that accept Medicaid to ask patients about their immigration status, caused a 54% drop in expenditures billed to Medicaid in its first year. The year prior to the law going into effect, the state spent nearly $150 million on emergency care for illegal immigrants. So far this year, they have only spent $67 million. Joining me now is Florida.
Okay, that's all I got to play. Everything else is just going to be, whatever the news wants to say. But just this right here, okay? He saw something that wasn't working. He was like, you know what? I'm all about saving money for the taxpayers in Florida. Okay? Where do we start? Well, one of the biggest things, Mr. Governor, or whatever you want to say, we have a high rise in medical expenses through Medicaid. Okay? Medicaid, Medicare, whatever. Okay, so let's look into this. So last year, Florida realized they spent $148.4 million, okay, on illegal migrants coming here and using up resources. Then he told everybody in the hospitals or whatever the case is and said, you know what, from now on we're going to ask them what their migrant status is, what their legal status is. If they're illegal, they're not going to get a dime. So from there, it dropped down to 67 million. After the law took effect, and it says right here, after the law took effect through May of 2024. This was from July of 2023 to May of 2024, 11 months. He was able to save, what, 60% of this money to put it back into the coffers of Florida for the Florida taxpayer? Do you see how simple it is? So when anybody says that, oh, you know, where's the humanity about helping all these migrants? I get that. But where's the humanity about helping the people that pay taxes and they need medical coverage? The elderly, the sick, the veterans, the taxpayer, the ones that are living paycheck to paycheck. Why can't they get food stamps? Why can't they get Medicaid and Medicare? Why can't they get free dental? And, you know, whatever it is that all these woke governors and mayors are giving everybody, taking away from their constituents, why can't your constituents have that first? Why can't you help save money for your city, for your state? Because they don't care. But then when you have a governor like Ron DeSantis, and goes and saves, okay, tens of millions of dollars, you're going to have people coming out the woodwork saying that he's racist, of course. But I know that with him is going to be like, you know, water off a duck's back. But this is how you do it. But no, you rather have people I shouldn't say you, anybody watching, but people rather have a mayor like Brandon Johnson in Chicago that has already dropped nearly $500 million and is going to spend more. You got a mayor and a governor in New York that has spent by their own admission billions of dollars and are going to spend more. California, I mean, God only knows what's going to happen there. Colorado is going to follow suit because they're taking in illegals like there's no tomorrow. Why? Why can't you just follow suit and say, you know what, if you really want to stay in power, do the right thing? They just don't care. Because whether they lose your vote, they don't care. That's why, I said it last year in some of my videos, it's almost like going fishing, man. Okay, you go with a tackle box full of fishing lures, and you just keep using every single one you can till you just snag one in. So they'll let in as many illegals as they can to get that one vote. You figure for every 1,000, they're hoping to get one vote, maybe 10 votes. And then the ones that didn't vote for them, they're out in the street. We don't care. At some point, they're going to have to fend for themselves. And then that's what causes chaos. That's what causes crime. Okay? So this whole narrative about that, oh, we're trying to do the best we can and we're cutting resources back in order to help. You don't have to do that. All you got to do is save 90% of that money and send them back. And take that money and help out your cities, your communities, your states, your constituents, your American citizens, your American fellow men and women. But they won't do it because they don't care. Unlike Ron DeSantis, who is showing, okay, and giving results that people can see. I just don't see how anybody on the left could look at him and say that he's a bad governor. Not in my book, I'm sorry. And neither is Abbott in Texas. But anyway, that's what I got for you. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store, TrueOutlawPatriot.com. So remember, people, stay vigilant, keep praying for each other, keep praying for the children, keep praying for this country, and pray for Donald Trump. Peace.